Okay, so I'm back for a reflections video. I know I said in the last video I said I had a goal of doing one of these a week or doing these more frequently since my schedule opened up a little bit with sport coming to an end or having a break. But realistically, it's just not feasible given the time I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try keep myself accountable to getting one of these up every 2 to 3 weeks, somewhere in that window. I'll go a reflections video, a PowerPoint video with a few studies in it or a few topics, and then maybe a practical application video of implementing a program or implementing a type of programming or type of exercise or some form of practical advice I can give. So I'll try and keep to that route. So today is a reflections video. I'm going to try keep this short because it's a very simple point. So today is people's relationship with the scales and how their emotions are really getting in the way of their tracking or their progress. So a few years ago, there was a huge kind of shift towards, it started off with people's BMI. So I remember even parents were saying it, or people who didn't even understand how to calculate a BMI were saying, oh, sure, the BMI doesn't matter. It's not that important. It doesn't take into account different shapes. It doesn't take into account muscle. You know, it just takes into account basically height, weight and all that crack. And it doesn't give you a clear indication. And in saying that, yeah, sure, it doesn't take into account some things, but if you have a very high BMI, be it too much muscle or be it too much fat, it's probably not a good thing. Let's be honest. Like, we can't really sugarcoat that. If your BMI is coming in way over 35 or a very high number, like, it's probably not good for the general, broadly speaking, for the general public. And the same can be said for the scales. So yes, people are coming in different shapes and sizes. Yes, people are going to carry different amount of fat tissue, different amount of muscle, everything. But we cannot totally throw the scales out or throw the baby out with the bathwater, because we're coming to a point now where coaches, any kind of coach, are terrified to use the scales as a metric because they don't want to trigger someone emotionally, or they don't want someone to just focus on the scales. The scales is just a metric, just like your clothes are metrics, just like your photos you take, the progress photos you take of your body composition, just like the measurements you might take around your waist, your chest, your thighs, your arms, different things like that. These are all just metrics, and people are able to emotionally detach themselves from the photos, from the clothes, from the waist measurements or arm measurements or thigh measurements. People can detach themselves from that emotionally, but it seems to be when it comes to the scale, people freak out a little bit. They just kind of, everything's all over the place. So I don't, let's say roughly through the year, 20 to 30% of my clients will use the scales at some point, at least for 3 months. 20 to 30%, which isn't a whole lot, but it's quite a few at the same time. So something we always talk about, where I'm saying if you're weighing in, you must weigh in correctly. Now I have a whole video on weighing in. You can look it up. How to weigh in accurately is the name of the video. But that whole video goes on about how you need consistent weigh-in. So you need consistency in the scales you're using, the clothes, the time of day, an average of 4 weigh-ins a week, things like that. People are hopping on the scales on a Monday evening, looking at their weight and going, oh, for fuck's sake, after maybe a few beers or after a good weekend or after food on the weekend or whatever. People are jumping on the scales infrequently, different times, different periods, and they're just saying, oh shit, the weight is all over the place, or that's not what it was the last time. Your weight fluctuates massively throughout the day, never mind throughout day to day, week to week. So for those people who come on board and who are using the scales just as a metric, they see the changes, they understand the changes, they understand that, okay, well, look, I had a good weekend. Monday and Tuesday, I'm probably going to weigh in a little bit more, but I know how to get control of it, and I know how to get it back on the downward slope or upward slope that I want to get it onto. So it's all about emotionally detaching yourself from the scales. The scales, albeit isn't everything, it isn't the be all and end all, it is still an extremely useful metric that should be used accordingly. So not everyone uses it, that's fine, doesn't matter. If you're someone who's carrying a bit of weight, if your goal is to lose pounds, if your goal is to lose or reach a certain weight, but you're not going to use the scales, you're kind of shooting blanks and you're kind of hoping for the best there. The scales is a very useful tool and shouldn't be neglected just because a few people are afraid of their life, what might come up. So if you're going to be triggered by the scales aren't for you. If you want, learn to weigh in correctly, consistently, learn to track your weight consistently, learn the trends, understand your body, especially if you're a female, understand that, you know, different times of the month, your weight's going to fluctuate, even more so than men. It's going to be harder for you guys. And you just got to understand that. And once you start kind of tracking the weights and seeing these things and seeing these trends and putting two and two together, like, okay, well, you know, I had a lot of water yesterday, or I had a high carb meal before bed, and this morning my weigh-in's a little bit more, I'm holding on to water. Or other things like, God, I've been very, very stressed at work. My weight is, you know, I'm holding on to water here, or my weight isn't dropping like it usually is, or at the usual rate at these calories. It's important to understand these things. So my main message is try and take the emotions out of your weigh-ins. They're just a tool, just like anything else, and should be used correctly if needed. So let's not beat around the bush. If you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. If you have a weight target goal, or there's body fat to lose, yeah, sure, the scales isn't going to show body fat to lose, but if you're overweight, you need to lose weight, full stop, be it body fat or whatever. So the scale should be used to that account. And that's basically everything. I'm going to try. Well, the goal was to keep this in 5 minutes, and we're up over 6 minutes now. So that's everything. That's all I want to go through. And I will tag and link all of my pages down below. Well, my one page, my Instagram page. And hopefully I will see people again here in 2 to 3 weeks.